Curtis, DIY.
Okay, DIYers, first and foremost, Happy New Year. Thank you for choosing to click on this video. Today, we're reacting to an interview with the legendary hip-hop journalist Elliot Wilson, 30 years in the game strong. And 2024 was an incredible year for him, as well as a very controversial year when it came to the conversation of modern journalism, modern hip-hop media, and rappers who get into that space. Well, during this interview that he had with Rory and Mal, he talked about a few different things. I want to pinpoint the part where he's talking about his disgust, his issues with rappers that turn podcasters or turn journalists, and why he doesn't always agree with it. I thought this was interesting because obviously I'm an artist that also contributes to the media space. I don't consider myself a journalist, but I'm around a lot of journalists, and I definitely respect what they do. But there's some things in here that I learned and some things that I have some thoughts on, and I want to definitely react to this. So, Elliot Wilson on Rory and Mal.
So you do have to understand how in 2023, 24, things have changed.
Yes, sir.
Media has changed.
Yes, sir.
Technology has made it to where people enjoy things differently now. People want to sit and watch somebody stream and just be in the house and do whatever. And if a celebrity pulls up to kick it with them on their stream, people watch it. They like it.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be the prototypical, hey, let's sit down, let's talk, let's interview type of thing.
Yeah.
People like I think, you know, for celebrities and things like that, I think they rather feel more comfortable and at ease instead of sitting somewhere and feeling like they're being grilled.
Yeah, it feels like more of a safe space.
What's going on?
Yeah.
And you spoke out about, you know, your feelings on that. And
it bothers me still to this day.
But why does it bother you?
Because it's like there needs to be a balance. I think when you put an album out, for example, any artist, right? You put an album out, I don't think the album is like your own reflection of it. I think you need to talk about your art, what you did to somebody you trust or respect. Like it gets lost without that. It's just like one album, like, oh, put the album out. Like even Freddie Gibbs, like y'all sent me a Freddie Gibbs album, right? All day. Y'all Freddie Gibbs. He don't want to talk to nobody. It's like, yo, what the fuck?
But he makes a valid point.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
That's something that I was really glad to see in 2024 because of the battle, because of everything media-wise that circulated around that, is that in the midst of all the nonsense, there were a lot of great conversations about the specific art that was shared in this battle, lines and double entendres and from both sides that folks wanted to dissect. And with that said, it was encouraging to see so many people be interested in lyricism, be interested in you know, someone who is taking their time with their craft, because if you recall, we came out of an era of artists that really were the poster childs for music being disposable. I don't feel that way as a creative, but I know that there's some people who look at music as an easy lick and a way to go viral. With that said, I agree with what Elliot is saying right here, in that there are artists that don't even make the effort to sit down to talk about their music. And I mean, that's the reason why we give a damn. Now, obviously, everything has evolved. Fans have evolved. They want more. They want to know beyond your music, because we've seen enough stories over the last few years of artists that have made amazing music and terrible personal decisions. So perhaps it's a little bit of that. Perhaps it's folks saying, you know what? I think that audio is limited as a space. I get this 3-minute music. I mean, I don't look at it this way because I love music to death. I have an emotional attachment to it, but I can understand some people look at that and say, I need something more visual. They come from a very overstimulated world, and social media, that is their world, is overstimulation. And it's very visual on social media. So, you know, I hear him, and I definitely think there needs to be more balance. There needs to be media that gives the opportunity. But let me hear what else he got to say, because this is not even a spicy part.
I think Freddie's comes from just more disdain for being in the industry for 10 years and a lot of shit going back and forth with that. But
there's an imbalance in the game, you know?
Where I think it's odd, and I've defended you all year when it was you versus the streamers, just because you my mans, but I am here to say that my issue is that you haven't leaned all the way into it, because I agree with you. There's still, it's okay to have our favorite artists go and have fun on a stream and do a sleepover with Kai. I think it's incredible. But there needs to be somewhat of a balance, especially in a time where if we don't get an interview, we don't know anything about your life, And rappers are more celebrities than they are musicians now.
Yeah.
If I don't get a Hove and Drake, Nas, if I don't get any of those interviews, I can go to the album and find out where they're at in their life. That's how you get attached as a fan to an artist.
Yep.
Now they're more celebrity than they are musician. So who you are as a person is way more important. I think the sit-down interview is what people
But why
actually
is
care
it
more.
so cool
Because y'all
that-
not talking about shit in your music.
Yo, but why is
so
so
I can't
cool
get
that-
any type of connection.
Why is it so cool we're all media now, but then everybody don't talk to media? It's like it's an imbalance. Like
I mean, media's only interviewing media because I feel like the fans shifted, and I think we saw that the most. And I don't want to get in a full-blown Kendrick Drake thing, but
No
we saw
problem.
that. We saw that in May. The complete shift. It was right in front of our faces that these people are fans of content. They're not fans of music.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, is that you?
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Hey, Rory cooked on that. Folks have shown again and again how much they are a fan of the content versus the music. And I think that's why it's important. I don't want to jump the gun on this, but I think that's why it's important that you see more artists, more creatives find their footing in content, because there was a point in time where it was such a challenging thing to even get to some of these platforms if you didn't have a relationship, whether they be blogs, whether they be just, print magazine like XXL and Source and all these different things. It was a challenge. I remember taking an old flip phone, and I had some production credits on a Glasses Malone and Mac 10 album. And I remember taking my flip phone and getting a grainy pic in a liquor store. And that was a different experience. Now, I could post that and it wouldn't have nearly the same kind of engagement that it did then, because it meant something different. We're in a different space now. And I think that there are fans that if you just look at for a second, I know it pains some creatives in here to look at music as a piece of content, aiming that content versus a visual. I think that most people who are not passionate about it the way that we are, as much as they enjoy music in their background, enjoy music as part of sort of the soundtrack of their life, they may vie for a YouTube video over that represents that or represents that artist. They may vote for content over that because it's just a more enjoyable and entertaining experience. I don't need that because I've been in music for over 20 years, but I get that that's what's happening. And it's unfortunate that a lot of these artists don't want to sit down, but then I also realize throughout my 20 years, I've talked to a lot of up-and-coming media that were shitty. You hear me? They were shitty, but they were accessible. And they asked the worst questions. They asked the most Googleable questions. I know it's not a word, but the most Googleable questions. And it had me like, why the hell did I drive all the way out here for this shit? You didn't even do your research on me. And I think that artists are now realizing, wait a minute, I could get more of a viral moment from sitting down with Kai Cenat or doing a sleepover like how Offset did and when he fell off the chair, versus if I sit down and I talk really seriously about, the creative process. That may give them a little bit more motion and probably satisfy who they work for ultimately in those labels. So it gets tricky.
wow.
And a lot of those fans are fans of media people. Even though we talk about music, we do talk about a bunch of other shit. It's very much a lifestyle, content-based game with podcasting and streaming. As much as I do want to hear from Kai about music, that's like a minuscule part of Kai's brand.
You don't want that from
Kai
him,
is Kai's brand, not his
Exactly.
opinion on what a Cardi song is.
Yeah. Right.
So these fans are interested in media, messy media shit, and media talking to other media. Less than the artists, because the artists aren't as interesting maybe as we once thought they were.
But we have to have the interviews that balance the commentary, right? We have commentary all day, but it's where's the conversation with these people that are making the art?
Do you think
Where's that balance? There's no balance anymore.
Do you think there's a lot of artists that have good teams behind them that are telling them don't go do that because people have a different
Yeah, it's
view
not
of you
cool to do that,
when
yeah.
you have to do a long form? I saw with the presidency shit where everyone was saying, yo, Trump did a great thing by going with Rogan. People got to know him for 3 hours, not talk about politics.
Yeah.
To carry a 3-hour
right.
conversation.
Strategic, yeah.
And Kamala's team said they didn't want to do that because it was exposing too much of who she really was. She can't control a 3-hour interview.
Yeah.
I think people are getting the same advice to their artists, whether it be label
100%.
execs or major.
100%.
We know how you are when you're not on a microphone. Everyone's going to dislike you. So if you have to do a 2-hour interview with someone that's really a journalist, if I'm managing an artist I know is not built for that, I'm definitely going to tell them, yo, do it live and we'll do it together.
Are you prepared to tell the truth, right? Like, is Drake prepared to have a real conversation about everything that went on? Like Kendrick, Cole, are they prepared right now to have a real conversation? Maybe not.
Eesh.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
I think there's another point here in that a Drake or a Kendrick has a laundry list full of things that you could sit down and talk to them about. And they're very much outliers in this. I think there's a lot of rappers, and I can speak just from just someone who watches some of the rappers who I enjoy their music and I listen to the interviews. They're fucking terrible at times. They're terrible to sit down with. The yes or no answers, the posturing, you know what I'm saying? That's off limits. Some rappers who are like lying, trying to go viral. They're just saying ridiculous shit. Yeah, it becomes entertaining, but after a while, it's like, why am I going to sit down as a viewer and listen to this for the next hour? What is the value in this? Now, what Elliot is saying, I do think that there are platforms out here that are prioritizing those conversations outside of the shit that gets clicks, right? I think that Idea Generation does a great job of it. But I think the thing that's unique about Idea Generation and that platform is that you look at those interviews and it looks like a piece of art. It doesn't look like two cameras got set up and that's what happened. It looks like a piece of art and a piece of content. It looks like you could literally put that as a B-roll in someone's music video because of how soft the lighting is, how, cinematic some of the framing is and the background and the work that goes into it. You can tell that it's something that the artists themselves feel like is an extension of their art. And I feel like that's also, to a certain degree, some of them crazy ass setups with a Kai Cenat. I think he has a setup that very much feels like it can be part of a rollout, right? You're probably wearing some of the same clothes that you were styled in for the album. You're in a headspace where you're kind of expressing things that you couldn't express in the music. I think that everything is evolving, and I think that the interview space has to go along with that. I think it needs to get more interesting for the viewers because the viewers have been honestly spoiled. And as much as we care, because we're participants in this, about the actual music, about the actual content, a lot of folks are just looking for those moments that keep them interested over a 2-hour podcast as they listen to it at work. But a lot of valid points are being made here.
Okay, probably, but why would they owe that this soon? Even though I would want that.
They don't owe it. I'm saying that they're not ready for it, I don't think, right now.
Why? But why do you say they're not ready for it?
Because it requires so much honesty of like really looking at the whole landscape of what happened. The introspection of it's like, yo, we're not there yet.
But with people like Cole and Drake, I think we're going to get that in the music on the next album, both of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course I'd want them to sit down and have to really answer to certain questions. I would love for Kendrick to sit with someone and someone straight up ask, do you really think Drake is a pedophile? Like, I want those questions, of course. Yeah. But with them, I don't care as much because they will put that in the music.
Yeah.
These younger artists, they're not saying shit either. So where is the connection as a consumer?
Well, the young artists don't even know how to talk.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I'm like, they're not doing interviews because they don't know how to speak. I don't want to hear half of these young artists speak. Like, they don't even know how to talk.
But y'all say that, but there's also this other group of artists that are now content creators. They're media.
Yeah.
Like
Can I make one point before they get into this? Because this is the meat and potatoes of this. Can we talk? We're talking about the artists that don't have the ability to articulate themselves. Well, they chose their medium, right? They don't really do really good interviews. I don't want to dogpile on them. Can we talk about those who are in media? And I'm not counting an Elliot Wilson in this, but we can talk about the folks who are in media who are, respected for their platforms, but just flat out don't know how to talk to rappers. Fuck rappers. Don't know how to talk to creatives. They talk to them in such a way that is foreign, and a lot of them get checked, and they wonder why these folks don't want to return back to their platforms. I'm sure you can think of 5 names off the top of your head that are not Charlemagne the God. But with that said, there's a lot of artists I know that are like, yo, yeah, I said what I said, but I also don't want you to use it, abuse it, and misconstrue it, and then put it out there into the world, and then I have to go play cleanup on my own platform, or clean up in a live stream, or clean up on some other interview that has more integrity. I don't want to have to go do that. Why don't I just not do that? Why don't I go to an environment where I know the conversations are going to be more engaging, they're going to be more so what my audience wants, and not just a moment that they're hyper-consumed. I think that's definitely something else that's missing in it.
We always do the City Girl number 7 as a joke, but Young Miami is good at what she does for the purpose of it. There is still a side, and those people that could do great interviewers are now becoming the media.
Yes. Everybody's media. Summer Walker's media. Cameron's running like he's Stephen A. Smith. It's what we're dealing with.
Why are you saying like he's Stephen A? Why he not running around like Cameron?
Yikes.
Cameron to be that.
That's what people be mad at you about when you say shit like that.
Which I think he should lean into. Be the old villain.
OD, that was hate.
You know what I'm saying? That's why I think people be mad at you.
Oh, it's hate.
Cam is running around like he's Stephen A. Smith. No,
why is he a sports journalist? Because he has an opinion? Why?
But
him and Mase have proved to have a good opinion that people care about.
He got Mase having a job and really like check because the bag is there.
But Elliot, you don't think that we all come from the culture of we all sit around in our neighborhoods in front of our buildings?
But Mom, don't make you a journalist.
But I'm just saying we all sit around in our groups with our friends and talk about
our opinions,
music. That's all these guys are doing right now.
But that's not fair. Is Shannon Sharp a journalist?
No, but that's the easier
experience from it.
That's where the athlete becomes the media. That's the easier Charles Barkley. That's the easier transition.
So why is it easier for the athlete but not the artist?
It's not easy, but I don't like it because, like, you imagine, like, this is the shit I do well, and not everybody want to do it. And they get
Okay. That right there gets to the nitty gritty of it. Okay. A lot to unpack there. Let me give my theory, and I think I've talked about this many of times on this channel. I believe that we're seeing a similar shift that is happening in sports media, that is happening in music media, and a lot of different categories. I think what's happening is that the people want more in-depth conversations. They want more informed outside of the research somebody did. They want to go into the brain of somebody who has actually made music. And this is not a slight to Elliott Wilson. I think that he does extensive research. In any of the interviews that he does, he asks the questions that a lot of people want to know, but he also asks questions that people didn't even think of. But I do think that we're entering an era where, in sports specifically, there's been a lot of folks like Skip Bayless who have had these head-scratching takes on shit that are merely for the clicks. And they get the clicks at times. Stephen A. Smith, I think that he at times has said things that I'm like, first of all, why are you yelling? I know that's part of your brand, but like, why are you yelling right now? We're not talking about anything right now except for a tweet. Like, what are we doing right now? But I think people have grown tired of the imbalance that has existed within that media space where you're only talking to people who have done the extensive research. And I'm not trying to minimize that, but you're only talking to the people who are informed based upon the people they interview and the experience they have being around these people. But what about the folks like, for instance, the coach of my favorite team, the Lakers right now, the JJ Reddick's. JJ Reddick is one of many. Kendrick Perkins, folks who have played the game at its highest level and are able to give you some of the X's and O's, the things that go deeper beyond, because a lot of these journalists have to cover multiple sports and have to be pretty well read. Well, who's going to go deeper into basketball than somebody who actually played the game and knows what it's like to guard LeBron or knows what it's like to guard Kobe, rest in peace, know what it's like to guard Jordan? I think the people are asking for the professionals to come back into the room. Same thing with music, and this is where I really relate to what Elliot is saying, because I think the way he feels about the rappers taking over the media space and occupying room that, should usually be reserved for journalists like himself who are credited and have done all the work. I felt that way as an artist when I started to see the TikTokers, when I started to see the content creators getting into music and trying to run it up like it's a lick. And I'm like, get out of here. What are we doing? Like, you're occupying playlists. You're occupying print magazine interviews and all these different things that are appealing to someone and very beneficial to an independent artist. You're occupying this space because why? You're not great at music. It's very gimmicky. Oh, because you have 5 million followers. That made me feel a certain way. So I sympathize with what he's saying, but at the same time, I had to realize that no matter what, at some point in time, the professionals are going to always ask to be brought back into the room. It's the same way I feel about AI. I know that it's evolving at a insane rate, a terrifying rate. But people are going to always ask for the professionals to come back into the room. And I feel like that's what's happening with some of the conversations. They want to hear from artists talking to other artists about the art because it's a different conversation. We talk about balance that brings a balance that we really haven't seen. We didn't see that during the Teen Summit years or during the Rap City years, even though I know Tig is a rapper and all that. We didn't really see, a 50 Cent sitting down with a Kanye West and having an in-depth conversation at the prime of their careers about the things that inspire their art. I think there's an audience that really wants to tap into that. With that said, though, Elliot, you got to talk your shit. I get it, man, because you have invested the years into this, and to have somebody be called a journalist because they got a few hot takes and a few videos with hella views, I know that's got to infuriate you, because it infuriated me when I heard them call them folks musicians. That was just talking about.
You don't like it because you feel like they're not coming to the journalists to have these conversations.
I'm real with that.
Which affects your bottom line.
The best I ever do is me with that. So then you want to be that off celebrity of what? So I can talk about that. I don't like that shit, and not be a hater.
Yeah.
It's reality.
Yeah.
Okay, not to cut them off, and I'm not trying to overstep my authority in any kind of sort of way, but wouldn't it make sense in this position then for an Elliott Wilson? I know he's done examples of this, but wouldn't it make sense for him to be aligned with an artist that is in the game that wants to get into the media space? I know he has the bigger picture platform with DJ Head and Jeremy Heck, and I think they do an amazing job with that. But for the sake of this argument, I think if anything, aligning yourself with somebody that can get you strategic interviews that maybe these artists don't want to sit down with journalists anymore for whatever their reasons are. Maybe that makes sense to have a rapper that you have aligned with that. I've said this about Elliot. I've said this about many different folks who are making the adjustment, is that is going to make the conversation a bit different when you're reaching out to an artist and you're saying you're going to sit with somebody in there that is an advocate for what you're doing, somebody who understands some of the nuance that maybe perhaps I don't, because I'm not in your category. I'm not a rapper. I'm not a writer or songwriter. But yeah, these are the conversations we got to have so that we see some more evolving moving forward. And I think it's going to happen this year.
Don't like it.
You don't like it because you don't think they're good at it?
I know I'm better at it.
Okay.
It's me. It's my life.
Okay.
But Elliot, what
Imagine
would make you better at it? Because in this day and age, it's just not about getting the information right. It's about who's more entertaining. So who are you to say I'm better at this than them when what
I'll prove it to you I'm better than you. Like, I'm the best. I'm more informed.
All right, talk your shit, Elliot. All right, talk your shit. Talk your shit. Look,
Tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
can't be mad at that if you're going to be a participant in hip hop. You can't be mad at that. What you mad about? That's hip hop. That is literally hip hop. Like, I'll show you I'm better. I get it. I get it.
better at telling a story? Are you better
100%.
at getting accurate
They're not better. It's like, that shit cringeworthy. I watch that shit. It's not good.
Yo,
Shit ain't
But
popping.
this-
it ain't popping.
I don't agree.
This takes-
What's the camera interview? Was like, yo, Cameron really asked the questions. Like, what are you talking about? No.
But what interview did Cam take away from something of, let's say we're the hip hop ilk, even if Maul and I aren't journalists, we're still in hip hop media. You are a hip hop journalist. What interview did Cam take away from us?
They have celebrity has access to different things that I may not have. And again, I do feel like they underperform.
See, I think
See, you know, this is what I respect about Elliott Wilson.
Somebody's gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
A lot of OGs who have solidified themselves as legends in this space will stand on a peg and will not give you this kind of vulnerability and this kind of honesty. I respect this honesty because, you know, there is a certain amount of access and a certain comfortability that I've experienced as I've interviewed my peers. There are rappers that have come on this platform and have given you reactions, have had tears because they know that they're sitting across from somebody that's not looking at them as clickbait, that's not looking at them as ad revenue, that's not looking at them, and I'm not saying, once again, that Elliot does this, but they're not looking at them as, you know, just another person sitting in that chair. They understand what it's like to go through it firsthand. I understand what it's like firsthand. So I see why. Elliot, but I also remember this period too. As an independent artist trying to get on these platforms, this is one of the benefits of being able to make content, is that at one point in time, boy, oh boy, if you didn't have a friend, if you didn't have some dirt on a blogger, you wasn't getting on that that blog. If you didn't have some kind of connection to whoever, you're just not going to get those looks. And now that you have artists that have created their own platforms, shit, man, now we're getting an opportunity to instead of be deplatformed for something we said, we can platform ourselves and we can talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about. You know, say what you want about J. Cole, but I think he did a great job towards the end of this year changing the conversation around at least his fan base as he kind of re-released these projects. And that came through a medium in which he got to control the narrative. And I think that's the real key. A lot of these artists feel like they didn't control the narrative in legacy media and media that came before this era that we're in.
I have to push back there because you have had 25 years of relationships with publicists, PR interviews. The three majors where Cam is a celebrity and has, you know, relationships for him being in the game for 30 years. But you have direct relationships with the majors that the rest of the podcasting world never had. So you still do have that. I think we have to go back to the period at the end of the sentence of what the fans want. And with Cam or Young Miami, maybe they just want to be entertained. With Kai, they just want to be entertained. They don't want to be informed. They don't want to be informed.
The access goes to them above me. That's the problem I have. That's what it comes down to. You see what I'm saying? Because it seems sexy, like, yo, Cam's the sports reporter now. Hey, woo,
okay, but let's not act like that's not always been hip hop or entertainment at the time. We've seen things that were hot and then failed immediately, but at that time, that was the hot shit that people went to.
And
that's like any genre.
They don't have to fail. It's all good. They can do their thing. I'm just saying, like, yo, I'm competing. I want a shot. I'm in this. I'm still here.
Mm-hmm. Look, I'll tell you this, though. Some of these platforms will fail because I think the other side of the coin of what I mentioned earlier is that some of these rappers are going to see how challenging it is to sit in the chair of an Elliot or sit in the chair of someone who does the research. Because now, as you're sitting down across from your peer, and your peer starts going from, I feel comfortable in this seat because you understand me, and they go from that to, you didn't even listen to my project, did you? Like, you really didn't, we not on the same page, are we? I think as they see, like, damn it, I'm telling you, being a DIYer at times
DIY
runs me into the dirt, especially because I still handle the responsibilities of the editing, the camera, the lighting, the composition, the coloring, and all these different things that go in just the video production of it, the audio, and making sure that's all good. It is a lot of work, plus to prepare and to do the things that someone who's an experienced journalist would have asked of this position. It's a lot of work. And I think what's going to happen is that, yes, I'm an advocate for artists having their own platforms and being their own media. What they're going to figure out is this shit ain't easy. What they're about to figure out is that that person deserves your respect. And I think what may happen, and maybe we're jumping the gun on this, I think there's going to come a time that the Elliott Wilsons are going to get apologies from some of these artists because they're going to see how expensive it is, see how unreliable staff can be at times. They're going to see, I've seen it on both sides, they're going to see the work that they put in just to sit down with these artists and ask them questions about themselves. Well, they ain't got to sit down with you. But I think they're going to see, they're either going to be successful at it and say, I don't need you, or they're going to fail at it and say, thankfully, folks like you are still around that give a damn about asking me questions about the music, or even the tough questions that, you know, at least come with some integrity. Interesting times.
I want to compete.
But that goes back.
But now you sound like the old nigga in the park that don't get picked up no more.
Oh, Maul.
And I don't want to be that. You're right.
Yeah, but I'm not.
Stop being that.
And I'm not saying that you are that because
It's all good.
I know your work.
Yes.
I'm from New York City. I know Elliot Wilson's work.
My nigga.
But
love.
I do understand at the same time, like, there was a time where what I was into growing up, you know, my parents and my uncles, they was kind of like, yo, what is that y'all listen to? That's great.
Maul, it wasn't fly to be media.
No.
That's a fact.
Nigga, you're
fact.
media.
That's a fact.
You built a whole foundation.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
But that
You did that. You did. Both of y'all.
Yeah.
yes,
it wasn't
that,
fly.
that plus the format changing, whether it be
My
YouTube,
life,
social
my life
media.
is that.
Because print was cool, but it was never sexy because at the
wasn't
end of the
fly.
shit, it was just
I made
your
it
name.
fly. I made it as fly as I could back then with Double
Yeah.
XL. Right? It wasn't that fly.
But I feel like you, and this is why I was defending you all year. You adapted, and why I think people like Kai and other streamers should look at you, because I watched you since I was a kid adapt to the new shit every time.
Yeah.
The source was the source. It was the only thing, dead or that was it. The Bible. There could never be another magazine.
Yeah.
Shifted, went to Double XL. Everyone was blackballed. All right, I'll go with the people that are blackballed. Here you go. Here's 50 Cent on a cover. Double XL. Because, like, you always shifted with that. Then when the blogs came, even though you pissed off Nah Right and everyone else because they felt like you were late to the party, to the regular consumer, you
I
weren't.
hated Rap Radar, right?
Rap Radar came.
Oh my God.
But then how all those bloggers viewed you, I think is how you're viewing someone like Cameron. Because you have all the connections
Good point.
and relationships that maybe SK, Low, Mech, and them didn't have. But you still looked like somebody that was at the forefront of shifting to blogs. Then we made podcasting popping. Then Rap Radar podcast came, and you took God knows how many interviews from us. But you continue to adapt.
Will
So
Smith
that's why
pulled up?
that's why I'm shocked to hear the things that you're saying now, because I've only known you to adapt.
And you're right. I'm in the process of adapting.
Salute.
I got my own Elliot Wilson experience thing popping off January 7th. Interviews. Bigger picture with DJ Head, Jeremy Heck. I'm trying. I'm out here.
Hey, salute.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell
A
it.
few final thoughts on that. So, obviously we're living in a time that is a lot of people who are questioning, the where things are going and their place in this. And it seems like Elliot is being very transparent about some of the things that he vibes with, some of the things that he's like, I'm just not rocking with that, and I completely get it. Especially as someone who in my industry as an artist and a producer has seen that go under changes. But I think that if the theory holds true, the very things that I think that he's being critical of in terms of folks who are not doing a good job in this space, I think that if the theory holds true that people are asking for the professionals to come back into the room, which I do feel like that's what's happening. I feel like we're going to see this year is going to be a fantastic year in which the professionals take their position back. When I think about even watching my guy Justin, the company man, and seeing the moments where he showed you the difference between a YouTuber in this space and show the difference between somebody who's a journalist who has the ability to pin something that cuts through your soul. No names needed, but I think that we saw the difference in situations like that. And I believe in Elliot, if you put him in the room with folks like some of the folks he's criticizing, you'll see the difference. You'll see the difference in what journalism looks like, what it looks like to not just ask the hard questions, because that's only one dimension of it. We're talking about some of these folks play 3D chess when I tell you they lead an artist into a question, but they know if they just flat out ask it, that person will shut down and they'll completely give them a terrible ass interview. I learned that from Larry King. Larry King has a book, How to Talk to People, and he talks about that in there where he says, in order to get to that, sometimes you have to, just let them know that you're a human being that understands their needs as a human being. I think that media is going to go that very direction. I think the audience is going to beg for the Elliot Wilsons, but I think also too, they're going to want to see them in an evolved format. They're going to want to see them on Instagram Reels. They're going to want to see them in YouTube Shorts. They're going to want to see them in podcast platforms where it goes beyond just the traditional conversations of podcasts like you might have seen with like Rap Radar, which I still think they did some amazing ones. My favorite one was with Nipsey. But I do think that a lot of things are evolving, but I think everybody is getting into their rightful place. I think people are getting into the place they're supposed to be. I think the professionals, even when I think about back to the sports media analogy, and I think about JJ Redick and the short-term podcast he had with LeBron, the conversations they had on there, most of the times had me lost because I love basketball. I love watching basketball. I've played it before, but never that deep into the X's and O's. And I was like, what does that term even mean? I had to Google so much shit. But that's valuable because it's beyond somebody saying, you know, do you think that LeBron James' legacy is ruined because he missed 2 free throws last night in a regular season game that doesn't matter? Like, it's so low-hanging fruit. It's so low IQ, and I think it appeals to more of a broader audience. But what about those of us who are more informed, who want to learn and really have some edutainment in the process? There's a place for us, and I feel like the people are going to ask for that. Salute to Elliot just for being somebody that's like, look, I'm not going nowhere, because I feel the same way as an artist that this year I'll be turning 40. I'm not going nowhere. I'm not looking to compete. At this place, I feel like I'm in a different position that doesn't need to compete. I need to evolve and compete with a version of me that could never even hold a candle to the place that I'm at right now. That part. DIYers, those are my thoughts on this. You let me know what you're thinking.
DIY.
DIYers, if you enjoyed this content, make sure that you hit the like button and maybe even consider subscribing. Come on, man. Stop being greedy. Peace.